Well, that was kind of cool. We were actually broadcasting for the last hour, realizing that we were broadcasting in the middle of nowhere, a void, because I had the wrong stream key. Actually, nowhere was only about 2 minutes worth of a stream, but that would suck, though, right, Jess?
What they were, I thought we were sharing our entire life stories, and everybody knew what was going on. Apparently, there's an echo.
Is there an echo now? Testing audio, testing echo.
We're good. I think we're good. Apparently, Steve, you have the echo.
Okay, well, I just turned off that NDI, so it should have fixed that.
I think we're good.
Good now.
Yep,
okay.
we're good now.
So I'm going to adjust the audio levels a little bit before we get going here, because we are using Skype. Because the only reason we have to use Skype is because we're playing a video, and it's kind of difficult to share the video unless we use Skype. Unless somebody knows any other way of doing it, please let me know. I don't know of any other way. So we're going to do audio checks real quick. I'm fine, but Chesh, we can boost you up a little bit. So
Check. Am I too loud? Am I too quiet?
Okay. How's that for Chesh? Give or take. I'm very quiet.
I'm loud.
All right, let me.
Here, I pulled my microphone away. Is that any better?
Let's see here.
It's really not any better. I'm just loud.
All right, she's loud. Well, I can fix that actually. Give me 1 second here. All right, now is that better? Talk.
Are we better? Chest too quiet? Ha ha ha. What?
Yeah, I've never seen Chess quiet, so.
Hey. Come on now.
All right, should be about equal here then, so. Say something, Chess.
Hello? Are we better? That does sound better to me.
Close enough. All right, they say it's close enough. So anyways, it's Caffeine Quarter. We are, it's not equal? Who needs to be boosted up? Because what I would have to do is turn myself down. Yeah, she projects, right? Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, that's true. I also talk as if I'm speaking to people in the back.
Yeah, I have a VU meter actually. This is what I'm actually using to. I kicked her down 11.6 dB so far. So. Yeah, I think she doesn't need to yell, because she's a yeller. Just streamer. Yeah, I would rather hear Chesh than Steve too, so I don't blame you for that. I get it. But anyways,
I'll speak a little bit quieter. I don't have to project as much as I do.
It's Caffeine Corner. We got coffee. My second cup.
I've actually got Earl Grey today.
Yeah, tea's good.
Stop yelling, Chesh. That's my job. Sorry.
Well, we already know Nikki's a streamer. I got video on that. But anyways, why don't you tell them what we're going to be talking about today? Because I saw this video, and it was a satire video, but I decided, yeah, you know what? It actually raises some interesting points that I've heard before. So it's kind of satirical, but not satirical in a way. So I figured we could kind of do a review of it. It was only like 6 minutes, but it's called 10 Disturbing Things My Old Atheist Roommate Said to Me. Satire by Whaddo You Meme is the name of the person here.
That's a really good channel name.
I guess, you know what, I should subscribe to him. Oh, I'm not signed in, that's why. I will subscribe to him. I think I already have, so I'm just not signed in right now, so. Alright, so.
Cheshire has no mic, she just talks loud enough for everyone on Earth to hear what she wants to. Yes.
Yeah, I do hear that hiss too, but it's not on my end, I don't know what it's from. I think because she has her gain up because she's on Skype.
Really?
I think so. Well, mute for a second, I'll tell you. Yeah, it's completely gone. Yeah, it's definitely.
Okay.
Whatever happened to your other mic? Your nice mic.
You told me not to use it.
I did not say that.
Yes, you did.
I did not.
Don't use that one. I'm getting a hiss off of that one.
Well, so at that time, yeah, that was like a one-time thing. What do you do? Pull a Kyle on me? Decided, that one time I say don't use it, I'm gonna never use it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's over. It's gone. It's underneath.
I gotta be more careful when I tell people. They take things too literally.
All right, is that better? I turned my gain off.
Yeah, that's much better. It actually sounds normal.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you don't need gain for that thing.
I have to switch it for Hangouts. If I'm on Google Hangouts, it doesn't.
Yeah. I've experienced that as well. All right, so how about we just start this thing? And
I hate when mommy and daddy fight. Are you the mommy and I'm the daddy?
I don't know. We could both be the mommy. All right, I'll start from the beginning here.
Thanks for tuning in. So
You're welcome.
I don't really know where to start. This is kind of weird because I didn't really script this on the things, but
Are you gonna share screen
Yeah,
so
I
I
got.
can see it?
Yeah, I
hey
got.
guys, thanks for tuning in.
I will in a second.
Hey guys, thanks for
Well, in a second. One sec.
I'm just watching it go.
Oh, this is too fun. Share computers. Okay, now you can see it and hear it.
Yeah,
Right, all right.
we're good.
Awesome. All right, we're making progress here, people. Let's go.
tuning in. So I don't really know where to start. This is kind of weird because I didn't really script this on the things, but a few years back, I had this roommate who was an atheist, and he said some things that have just stuck with me throughout all these years. It's really crazy. So I thought it'd probably be kind of a good idea maybe to just go through like 10 of the things that he said, and so you guys can kind of see for yourself. Let me know like what you think. So yeah, I mean, let's just get right into it.
Now, before we get into it, I think he is a theist. I went to his Twitter page,
Yeah.
and he has scripture on it, which is fine. And I'm probably guessing, if I had to take an educated guess, he probably had heard things very similar to this, because I have heard very similar things to this, and he's sending a video on it. So it is satire in a way, but I'm guessing, and you watched it, it sounds like he's probably actually heard these things before.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff that he talks about, I've watched it ahead of time as well. Most of the stuff he talks about they're clearly like joking, extreme versions of the things that are being said. But yeah, these arguments do exist, or they do crop up in conversations. There's a couple things that are like just phrased a little bit weirdly, which is why I got a kick out of his first joke, which is I didn't really script any of this, which is a really good joke for anybody who missed that joke.
I didn't get
brilliant.
What?
That's smart.
What was it? I don't get. Okay, fill me in here.
He said at the beginning, this is kind of awkward because I didn't really script any
Right.
of this, and then it's all a bunch of sketches.
Oh, okay. That makes yeah.
It's a clever joke, and yeah, I'm pretty sure this guy is a Christian apologist, but I think he's under the heading of I don't like religion, the construct.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think he tends to take things. I've seen his videos before, so I haven't like deep dived or anything, but from what I have seen, that seems to be close to their position.
Yeah, I know he's done stuff with Scholar Fiction, or Scholar Fiction has talked about him before, and I also know he's done videos on Cosmic Skeptic. And Cosmic Skeptic, by the way, said he will come on. He only has a few days available this month. He'll be back.
Yep.
We just haven't really arranged it yet. We've kind of been dropping the ball on that. I'm sorry. We'll get back to Alex, but it's really hard with Alex because, one, he's in England, and two, he's in Oxford, so he's kind of a busy dude.
Yeah.
But I really would like to have him and Rachel Oates on to have a discussion, because I think they kind of need to.
That would have been the first. This will be the first time I've ever talked to either of them in person. If and when that happens, I'm gonna be so
Are
excited.
you going to fangirl out? Which one?
Yeah.
Which one are you going to fangirl more on?
Both.
Really?
Yes. All over.
Now,
all over.
see, Rachel was on my channel when she had like 200 subs.
I love Rachel.
Okay, so I told her she was going to blow up, man. I had no doubt in my mind about it, and so
I hang out. I'm actually in contact with Rachel on Instagram, and I don't actually have any real conversations with her too often. I'm usually just sending her cute animal videos.
She is amazing. I'm a huge fan of Rachel. I promoted her from day one. Like I said, I knew she was going to be excellent at this stuff. She just had a knack for it. So
Mm-hmm.
I have pretty good predictor abilities on these things. And Cafe's how do you pronounce
Caffeine.
Caffeine, sorry, yes, Caffeine said, "How do you meme? What do you meme?" Also did an interview with Aspiring Philosophy. Okay, that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I like.
Maybe
Aspiring
we'll look
Philosophy.
into more of some of his stuff
Michael.
later.
Aspiring Philosophy is Michael, right? I'm pretty sure.
I don't know people's real
Yeah.
names.
I know in passing because I've talked to him quite a few times on Facebook. All right,
Oh, fair enough.
let's do it.
No, you're getting it all wrong. If humanity wants to survive, we must all outgrow the childish belief in a magical sky daddy. It's so silly and childish that, hey, Mark's here. Hey, time to play video games for the next 5 hours.
I gotta admit, I actually liked this video. It was cute.
I like the fedora.
the fedora.
He's trying to like milady all of atheists. It's great.
It's like a whole thing of everything atheist icon. And he doesn't know who we are now. He probably will figure out eventually if he goes to my Twitter thing, because I added him on Twitter, that I'm the agnostic. I'm not the atheist. She's the atheist. Although we're both not God believers. But we do so, very comedic wise in some ways when we approach some of this stuff. I appreciate the fact that he's actually trying to make this satirical, and it's funny.
Yeah,
it's a good
and
video.
he had was that Richard Dawkins' book that he had there, or was that the Christopher Hitchens one? That wasn't Religion Poison is Everything, right? He had one of them.
I don't know.
He might have had the God Delusion there. I'm not 100% sure, but he had like one of those books, like laying in the fedora. Time to play video games.
So, by the way, I won't be able to answer questions in the live chat about philosophy or anything in this hangout. It's not for that. So, sorry. I can't change the entire thing.
Listen, if we do that, that's all we're going to be talking about.
Right, exactly. So I want to talk about the video.
You know what? Tell you what, if you have questions at me afterwards in the chat, I'll write them down, and next time there's an Ask a Philosopher, we'll go through some of them.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Matter of fact, Ozzy is going to join us for an Ask a Philosopher coming up, and Jessica, I think you were on the last one, weren't you? Or was it one before that?
The Ask a Philosopher, or the last thing with Ozzy?
No, the last thing with Nick. Weren't you on that?
Yeah,
one?
I was on the Ask a Philosopher as the in-between guy, and then I was on. You had a Facebook hangout with Ozzy a couple months ago that I was on.
Yeah, he's been. This is his summer season. This is basically where he goes camping and a bunch of other stuff. So he's been real busy.
Yeah.
All right, so the Invisible Sky Daddy thing. Now I had actually talked about this before. I actually had a video on Cyrus's channel, Cyrus, Skeptic, and one of the things we brought up was we found that terms like Sky Daddy, Invisible Sky Daddy, and these hyperbolic type inflammatory negative rhetoric, in my opinion, adds nothing to the conversation for an atheist. It's not going to convert a theist. It's not going to change anybody's mind. All I think it basically does, it makes the atheist look like an asshole. That's my opinion. In most cases.
In most cases, I would agree. There are some circumstances where it's appropriate to, if you're just trying to illustrate a silly point, like this biblical story, if you take it literally, is seriously because you have this overwatching dad in the sky who watches you masturbate, telling you that you need to do this. He's gonna draw the line at the deli aisle. No ham for you.
Likes to watch.
Right. So it's like, yeah, exactly. So it's not. It can be productive in a specific conversation, but when you've got people, it's been overused at this point where it's just a meme and it's a joke and it just makes you sound like a dick most of the time.
Right, that's what I think too. By the way, you must have really made God irate for the fact that you had a week of no fapping. So what did God do for that week?
Watched other people? I don't know.
By the way, it's been past midnight, right? Right, she made it. Congratulations to Chester. She made a week. I told her that's not even bronze level at my age, but whatever, man. Minor accomplishment. She went a week. Congratulations. When you hit a month or 6 months, let me know.
Why would I do that? This is optional. We're not talking about sex. We're talking about masturbation. I can do that whenever I want.
Like anybody has time or the energy for that anymore.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, when you hit I'm almost 50. I don't give a fuck. All right, so yeah, I think we've kind of all, both of us kind of agree on that it just seems a little demeaning. It doesn't really add anything to the narrative. And when I find it mostly used is when I see it used from people like GE, who has no debating skills whatsoever. So he just has to use negative rhetoric. Now, I understand people throw it in every so often, whatever, right? But
it works in a conversation if you're trying to flip the debate around. So if somebody's telling you, well, you don't believe in everything, it's like, yeah, well, you believe in a sky daddy, right? Like it when you start getting into that kind of a back and forth, to be like, listen, this can be ridiculous if you frame it how you can frame anything to sound ridiculous. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So if you're using it to deflect that kind of conversation, it's perfectly acceptable and it works, but you have to be in that position. Otherwise, if you just come out with that, you sound like a douche. Yeah,
I think we both agree about that. And we're going to ask live feed, if the live chat, if they kind of agree or disagree. Not that it matters, but I like to get their opinion. We got a lot of people out there today.
I love chat.
Yeah, no, you know what's funny? True story. When we've started the videos on the YouTube channel, on the Non Sequitur Show channel, Kyle didn't want to have live chat. I'm the one that talked him into that. He was almost adamant. Oh, no, I don't want to deal with any live chat stuff. It's distracting. I was like, no, you don't understand. That's how you interact with people. So
yeah.
So you want
I love
live chat because
live chat is the best. I also think that live chat. I want to shout out because we do praise live chat quite a bit because they are the best. But I would like to shout out the lurkers Hi, guys.
Who's anybody specific?
No, just all of everybody who's lurking right now and not in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Hello,
Gotcha.
we love you too.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, sorry to bother you, but do you mind if I borrow some morality from your worldview? I've been searching for some grounding for mine, but it just all seems so arbitrary.
Now this one I do.
I like that
Yeah,
one.
I got issue with this one, man. I don't know his first name. I don't know what to call him, but I got a little issue with this one because I know a lot of atheist philosophers, obviously, and almost all of them are objective moralists. They're all believe in moral realism. So it has nothing to do whether you're an atheist or not, whether you accept moral realism. It's actually just a propositional thing, whether you think a proposition could be true or false based upon things that are not based upon subjectivity or individual bias. And I think that there's a very good arguments to be had in the literature that objective morality is the case. But there are also other things out there that I find intriguing as well, which is called error theory. And even a lot of people are now migrating in what's called quasi-realism. But the atheist, when he was talking about this, he's trying to say that the atheist is saying that the Christian they're borrowing from here worldview, because usually isn't it the Christian's going to say you're borrowing from my worldview, right?
That happens a lot. There's a good number of, particularly in apologetics, you'll find a lot of, well, you're just using Christian morals. And it's like, no. In fact, I would probably argue that you're also not using Christian morals. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. The thing that I think is funny about this one is just because, it's because it's from the apologetics point of view. Is that, well, hey, can I borrow some of your morals? Because that's an argument that they'll make. So they're basically it's like an argument inception. It's a joke based on their perception of the way atheists come to their moral perceptions, even though they're not. But that's the argument that they say that they're doing. It's like this is stacked. There are layers here, and it's
yeah,
amazing.
It's complicated. By the way, I put a noise gate on my microphone. Somebody said I have background noise. I am running an AC and fan right now because it is very hot today. But I put a noise gate on, so hopefully that'll fix that problem. Let me know if it's clean now.
My shirt is a Game of Thrones shirt. I'm gonna show you guys real quick.
Thalo Blue says, just so you know, Steve McRae took my hangout virginity. I knew that. I've taken a lot of people's virginity. And by the way, Blue, I do appreciate what you said about the debate and all that kind of stuff. So thank you very much for that. People didn't watch it, but or they didn't watch it. I was on Modern Day Debate last night. When was that? I don't know. Sometime yesterday.
Yeah,
but it was pretty brutal because I didn't really want to go on, but I was just mortified that Tom Jump was trying to argue something that was just indefensible and that he had little to no understanding of the topic,
it's just the second time he's done it. Like, particularly about this subject, which is bizarre.
Let me know if Cheshire's a background noise. I can put a noise gate on her too, so. Reed, I took yours. I don't want to take Reed's virginity, but I guess I did. I'm actually proud of the fact that a lot of people in this community have never been on a stream before until they, saw this channel, and then they decided to jump in and become voices in it. And whether you're actually in the live chat or in the stream, you still have a voice, right? And so they would come into the hangout and at least be able to talk, and I think that's a pretty amazing thing to get more people involved. Oh, I definitely took Nikki's. Yeah, I took Nikki's, definitely.
You can't take my virginity, because I can't lose it, because I never lose.
You haven't been a virgin for God knows how many years.
Bitch, you don't know my life.
All right, so let's go to 3.
Hey, can I get your opinion on something? Do you think it works if I just keep saying the words fallacy and debunked over and over, even though I've never bothered to look up the fallacy or read what professional atheist philosophers have said about the arguments for God's existence? But I heard it from my favorite YouTube atheists, so it has to be true, right?
Now he is right on that one. I got to give him that one. I see this daily. I was in this Facebook group the other day called Prayer Works, which is a group about prayer. But there's atheist trolls in there, and they're like your base level, your basal level atheist trolls. They are just dumb.
Yeah, there's definitely
there's a fallacies.
I think a lot of what he is parodying here or making satire on is a lot of the trolls that are out there, and a lot of the firebrand aggro dogmatic atheists. And there's a lot, and they're loud. So I think that's probably why, particularly with the kind of videos that he makes, there's a good chance that he comes across a lot of them. Particularly, most likely, a lot of these stuff is coming from his comment section.
Yeah, I have no doubt. But here's the thing, and I will recommend this to everybody watching this. If you're going to be in these discussions, especially with theists, the last thing you want to do is look like you don't know fallacies. Okay, and he's right. I see atheists throw out these terms ubiquitously in debates, and they don't know what the fallacies are. They get straw man wrong. They get argumentative populum wrong. They get argumentative from authority wrong. They get ad hom wrong.
That's like the easiest one.
But they think that an insult or pejorative is an ad hom, and I'm telling you this is the truth. You can ask any person who understands these things. If I insult you, that's not an ad hom. I know people say what it means toward the man. Well, that's not what it is talking about, though. This is why you have to understand the concepts. The ad hom is somebody who says, Cheshire, you're wrong because you kick puppies. That's an ad hom because it is describing something about her that's irrelevant to anything, saying she's wrong because of that. Or, Cheshire, you're wrong because you're just a freaking moron. That's an ad hom. I'm deflecting away from the argument by doing something personally against her.
You're wrong because you don't have a doctorate.
Yeah, that's ad hom. Now, if I say, hey, Cheshire, you're just an idiot, that's not an ad hom. I hate to break it to people. It's not. Insult. Stop saying it because I'm tired of atheists making that mistake. It makes all of us look really silly.
I'm going to
do the super chat real quick. Sorry.
Yep.
That's yours.
Oh. Man, I got to scroll. What book to understand fallacy?
I you know what? I need to compile some stuff.
Podge?
I don't really. The book that I used in college was called Contemporary Rhetoric and Fallacious Reasoning and Contemporary Rhetoric. So if you find that book, Fallacious Reasoning and Contemporary Rhetoric, I think it's like the 8th edition. It's blue.
Oh.
I have it here actually still.
I
You can find it like $4, but that's the one that we used in college. By the way, Dustmeister's out there. I need to get him. Why doesn't Dustmeister have mods? What's wrong with me? He's been around for 5 years and he doesn't have mods.
What are you doing?
Sorry about that, Dustmeister.
Fool. Here you guys go, real quick. Oh, I hit a button. Hold on. Oh, I might not be able to link it. It's too big. Damn it. Okay. I will link this on my Twitter, so if you go and find me there, it is a PDF of fallacies.
There you go.
And with examples, I'll explain.
And there's one called the 500 master. It's like the master list of fallacies. That's really good.
I should be able to fit. Hopefully, the link fits on Twitter.
So search that one too. It's called the master list of fallacies. But you have to understand these fallacies have a very specific form to them, and so like when people say like you committed a fallacy of argumenting ad populum. Well, if I had to say, hey, I have a lot of friends, and they happen to agree with me, that's not argumenting ad populum if I'm not saying I'm right because they agree with me. If I say, you know what, 80% of my poll agree with me, therefore, I have to be right, that's argumenting ad populum, okay?
Here is the link.
And when you argue from authority, we do that all the time. My argument against people that think that anytime you cite an authority, you're committing argumenting ad populum fallacy is, well, who else are you going to cite? Dumb people?
Well, yeah, there's a difference between saying it, like authority as in like, well, my teacher said so, therefore it's right. No, it's this teacher has said this and explained this. Here's why they're right. That's not, the difference is that if you just say, well, this person is right because they have a PhD, that's an argument from authority. But if I'm saying this person is right, or I make an argument and here's these people that agree with me, not by numbers, but by people who are more well-versed on the subject, and here is their information, then it's not, because now it's an issue of like, well, what claims are they making and what errors are in there or not in there.
And don't atheists do the same thing all the time when they say, hey, you have all the biologists saying evolution's a fact, and you have the, like Answers in Genesis and those kind of groups, you have a very small amount of people saying, oh, it's not, evolution's not a fact. Which one are you going to tend to believe, right? And that's fine to believe that. I mean, you will go with the experts. There's nothing wrong with believing experts. We do it all the time. You do it early when you fly, you believe that the pilot is an expert, is going to get you where you're going to go, right? That the physics works.
Yep.
The engineers that designed the plane. So we appeal to authority all the frickin' time. It's only fallacious given certain circumstances. A legit appeal to authority is when you do appeal to an expert. They are an expert in the field and they've reviewed it. So if you appeal to somebody who's not an expert in that field, or if they haven't reviewed it, or you say I'm right because the expert says it, those are fallacious uses of it.
Yeah, and it's a matter of like if you're usually fallacy, just a rule of thumb for fallacies is that if you're not addressing the argument, you're probably committing some kind of fallacy.
Yeah. So I just want to get that out there. Don't throw away these fallacies. These fallacies out there. It just because I see it all the time when people don't know the topic. They're just like, oh, that's a fallacy. No, it's not. Stop doing
I
it.
really wish I owned a fedora so I could wear it while we were doing this.
Me too.
That theologian went to school for 12 years when he could have just asked atheists online what the Bible says. I mean, us atheists, we've all read the Bible at least 5 times, cover to cover, and we know the scriptures far better than any Christian. Now, granted, we may not be able to tell you any of the events or the context of any of the verses that we quote, but we do excel at one thing, cherry picking while accusing Christians of doing it.
Ha!
Genius.
All right, we'll let you take this one after I answer this question real quick. Somebody asked me if the fallacy is underused. Fallacy is basically when you say that the conclusion doesn't follow from the argument, and therefore it must be wrong, or that is wrong. That's a fallacy, because you can have a conclusion that is true, even though it's from a bad syllogism or bad argument.
Yeah, you can get the right answer accidentally.
Right.
Or get the right answer for the wrong reason.
You don't want to say that your conclusion is false because your argument is bad. That's the fallacy. But anyways, you can take this one, Sesh.
I like this one. This one's cute, but it's got like a good number of problems. So there's a couple videos that you can probably look up. You'll probably have to look those ones up on your own. Of people asking Christians what the 10 Commandments are. They usually can't get all 10 of them. 5 is about average. Usually 3. People can get 3. There's as somebody who grew up in the church and grew up in like cubbies and all that good shit, you spend a lot of time memorizing verses, but very, very particular verses. You study like what are the books in the Bible and memorize those ones, and then the New Testament, and then you start. You got to memorize a little bit of John, and you got to memorize this one. So the idea that this is statistically. Yes, atheists tend to know quite a bit more about Scripture for relatively good reasons. One is because they studied it to find out if it was true, and 2, because they grew up in it. So this is something that's actually kind of true, but saying that it's any Christian is obviously pushing it over the top. If you've got, I'm sure there are a good number of atheists that will go ahead and again, fallaciously just make this claim, but it's a bit of an extreme claim, and no, I don't think any atheist should actually make it.
Yeah,
this is silly.
Yeah, and I grant that a lot of atheists do know the scriptures pretty well, but unless they dive into it, people have talked about Quine in Greek and Latin, and the reading of the Septuagint and the Latin Vulgates and all these other things. There are experts that know about these topics that I'm going to defer to as being biblical experts, right? Not just people that look at the scriptures and say, I'm going to read it this way, right? Because everybody seems to exegete their own way. So,
I've got somebody questioning my scholarly reading sources, and I would like to just show that right quick exactly what it is.
That's she knows that inside and out, though. She's got that down. She could write a thesis on that alone.
The thing is that this is a lot of because they're making jokes and because it's supposed to be satire. They're making a lot of broad assertions about all atheists or all these. I'm gonna pick up on his comedy a little bit real quick. The joke's not as funny when you explain it. So basically, take the clips that he's got and cut them in half, and it would be beautiful, beautiful. Because he's explaining the joke in his own video.
I kind of like that, though.
I mean, it's funny. It's a quirk to it, but that's just me picking
But,
on
I
this
mean,
comic.
but do you think it makes a point here that there are a lot of online atheists? I think they know the Bible exceptionally well, even though, like, for example, I'm friends with Dr. Kenny Rhodes, right? I
Yeah.
met Dr. Kenny Samples. These guys are actually theologians. They've studied the Bible in depth. So, I mean, unless you're on the level of somebody like, Josh, Dr. Bowen,
Yeah.
that kind of level, you're not going to be able to compete as far as I think with their understanding
Right.
of the Bible. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to come to the same conclusion that they do, that it demonstrates a God. But if they say this is historically, this is the time this was understood to be this, blah blah blah, I'm going to give them more benefit of doubt than most atheists who have never had any formal education in that topic, for the most part.
Yeah. There's a good number. It depends on how far you're talking about formal education. A lot, I would say, well, it depends on where you're from, right? The world religions class was relatively popular when I was in high school, and I also went to a Christian university. So, depending on your history and your background, will have very huge differences. But I would never claim to know anything near what Dr. Bowen is. Anybody who goes ahead and says, "Well, I know this because I'm an atheist and therefore I know more," is being an idiot.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And so, but that happens on both sides, because if you're going to talk about cherry picking, come on, really?
Well, I think they cherry pick quite frequently, because I've said this before. One of the things I do agree with is that if you want to argue something from the Bible, if you want to argue this position, you take this scripture. You want to argue completely against it, you take this scripture.
Well, yeah. Well, the Bible is so malleable, and
Yeah,
it's known
exactly.
to be so. That's not like an unknown thing. That's not a surprising thing. It's written that way, and it's written that way on purpose. So we all know this. The Christians know this. This is not like this isn't a big deal.
I don't know
It's
if it was
not
written
a
on
problem.
purpose that way. I don't know if it was written on purpose. What I think was you're just dealing with 60 some odd writers with their own personal views on it. You're going to have contradictions. You're going to have their own interpretations. I don't think they went out of the way to say, I'm going to write this so it can be used any thing you want to argue. I think it just ended up that way.
Maybe not. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Maybe not the writing itself, but the amalgamation and its adaptation over the years. I would say that I would be surprised if there wasn't things intentionally changed to push a specific narrative at different time periods.
Well, I'll give you apologetics works that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Yeah, for sure. And then what he mentioned one other thing. Didn't he mention one other thing? He said cherry picking and something.
want me to rewind?
Nah, it's not important. Let's keep going. Fuck it.
I just thought of something. Can you believe that there's like millions of books on evidence for God's existence, but there's not a single shred of evidence for the existence of God? I mean, what's more likely, that those books are filled with nothing but one-liners and gibberish, or that I don't understand what evidence is? I mean, obviously the books are filled with gibberish, but what I can't seem to understand is why Cambridge and Oxford are just publishing these books full of irrational gibberish when we have teenage kids on YouTube that have debunked those same arguments thousands and thousands of times. Makes no sense. None.
Yeah, I love the word debunk. People you throw around that term like it's, I've already debunked that, and I'm guilty of that too. I admit it. Okay, I can't say that I don't, but it is a term that I think is thrown around way too much. When he's talking about Oxford and Cambridge and these books, all these talking about God and these theological arguments, they haven't really been debunked. Where they've been is explained. I think, like the Kalam cosmological argument, not really something that's debunked per se. At least I wouldn't use that terminology. It is explained that it has to use, if you really want to get the nuances of it, that it has to use a theory of time, and that it depends on your meanings of causations, and it just gets in some intricacies there. But it's still a valid logical argument, right? It's modus ponens, so it's a very simple, logical argument. So when you can't say it's debunked, what does somebody actually mean by that, right? Now, I don't think it's a good argument. I think William Lane Craig, doesn't do a really great job in convincing me at all that it's a great argument. But when people are writing these books for God, I think they're saying these are the reasons why I think it's rational to believe God exists. They're not saying this is evidence that we know that God exists. This is not scientific evidence. These are arguments for the existence of God. That's it, right? Same thing for an atheist to say, I'm going to have arguments to argue that God does not exist. There's no book out there that shows God does not exist, just like there's no book out there that shows God does exist. there's arguments to be had either way. That's what these published books are. So the atheist saying, well, you have no books out there that actually demonstrates God, so therefore, it's all gibberish. I don't know why I say gibberish.
Gibberish.
I've done that before.
New
Gibberish.
word.
Not the first time I've done that, trust me. It's just one of those things that sticks in my head. But by the same token, if you use that same rationale against a theist, that you've just excluded all the atheists out there saying there are no gods, and writing books saying, let me explain to you why there's no gods. You have to evaluate both of them evidentially like that if you want to.
Yeah, I think in this case, we're back to this applies. Same with the last one. This applies to both sides. This this absolutely applies to everyone within the conversation. If you're this is an issue of people who don't understand philosophy talking about fucking philosophy, and half the time not realizing that they're talking about philosophy.
And by the way, all these subjects of philosophy, right?
Yeah,
you talk about God, you talk about philosophy.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've seen on Twitter when you're talking agnosticism versus atheism, and if you're talking definite, whatever the topic actually is, how many times people are like, well, we're not talking about philosophy, we're talking about the existence of God, and it's like...
I don't... It's we have Lizzie in the live chat right now, and it'd be like Lizzie saying, okay, you're talking about evolution, and somebody says, well, we're not talking about biology right now.
We're not talking about biology.
Well, yeah, you are. You're talking about evolution. That's part of biology,
What? What?
So, yeah, when you're talking about things that are existential, whether they exist or not, you're talking about ontology. These are philosophical terms. Ethics is a philosophical term. Time is a philosophical term.
And evidence.
Knowledge, evidence. These are all actually, evidence is actually, evidentialism is a philosophical.
Yeah, but evidence in these books isn't gonna work like that. It's if you're in the way he's describing, at least in the way you're describing, the evidence that an atheist is usually asking for is something fantastical. Produce a miracle in general is usually... I have a nice one that I do to my mom. And it's there's stories in the Bible of Baal versus Yahweh, I guess. And the tribe dances around this fire thing, and they light the thing on fire, and they pour oil on it, and it doesn't go. And the one guy who believes in Yahweh lets it stay dry, or wets it, he puts water on it, and then prays, and then God lights it on fire. And I'm like, well, this happens. Guy has faith, tests the Bible, so I usually hand her a candle and say, light it.
Well, and and look, if that's the thing that the theist is saying, if the theist is saying, look, I can demonstrate God exists, okay, now they have the onus to do so, right?
Exactly.
If they don't say they can do that, though. But
and if you're talking about literature, though, which is what he's referring to, that's not where you don't find books on apologetics that are written for atheists. They're all written preaching to the choir.
Generally speaking, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. But I think it's kind of the opposite with well, no, it's kind of both. Atheists write books for atheists, and they write books to try to deconvert people. So it's
what I would say is the atheist literature that I've looked at does tend to be a little bit kinder to the believers, in that in that it's still to them a little bit. For some of them, not all of them, obviously, but for some, there's no, we're still talking to you.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the standard ones that you're going to hear, like A Case for Christ, and that group of apologetics books, specifically apologetics, not every Christian book that's out there, just these apologetic ones in particular, are usually, we're going to pretend we're talking to non-believers, but we're not really.
Yeah, no, I see that a lot with the apologetic books. I think you're absolutely right on that. When William Lane Craig and the apologists, when they're doing their shtick, they're not trying to convert anybody.
It's preaching.
Yeah, it is trying to convince the people that already believe why they have reasons to believe.
Yeah, strengthening their own faith, which is fine.
But they're dishonest about it, though. I think they're dishonest about it.
Yes, that's the problem, is when they dress it up as disguise that these are good arguments, or these are going to work against your atheist friends, or because they also present them as if you should be trying to convert these people, and here's how you do it. But like that doesn't work. It's not how that works at all.
Snow Dog says, I love this question. I don't get much like this. He says, are you saying that the transition time of the grounding state, hyperfine transition in cesium is a philosophical concept? Actually, yes, in a way. I mean, if you think about it, and I'm going to go on a tangent here because you asked me because I like physics. When you have that hyperline transition, right, you have a spin that's going to be aligned to the directionality of the magnetic field from the isotopic spin. Now, in a hyperfine split, you have one go one way and the other one go the other way. That's dependent upon time. And in philosophy, time could either be an actual construct, as in Platonic realism, or it could be something called reductionist approach to time, which actually is just we don't actually take time as a construct, but because we are looking at time as the difference between two different points of something we can notice a difference of, basically. If nothing changes in the universe, if everything was stasis in the universe, there was no change, not the atomic level, not the molecular level, there was no transition, so you had no hyperline splitting, then what would be time? And for all practical purposes, time would be frozen. But is it really frozen, or is just nothing's moving? The only way we can determine time from a reductionist point of view in philosophy is that we notice there's a difference between 2 points with respect to what we perceive to be time, what would be Planck second, right? Because we can't get anything smaller than a Planck second. So yeah, all this stuff does depend heavily on philosophy. How do you like that?
I'm also going to briefly cover atheist versus agnostic because people in the chat are a little bit confused. And I'm going to cover it because we're not letting Steve go off on that tangent.
I'm mute. Go ahead.
So, atheist is somebody who makes the claim, I do not believe that there are any gods. An agnostic is somebody who might say that these particular gods I do not believe in, but
He's wrong.
It's brief.
He's
Ugh.
You're already wrong, though.
Fine, whatever. Play the clip.
And agnostic says there's no gods either, so that doesn't really do the distinction. Both of them say
I didn't go
they
that
do not
far
believe in
yet.
gods.
I legit.
Finish. Go ahead.
No, I don't care. I don't even care. Fuck you.
She's such a not a caring person. But yeah, let's move on. We'll do another video on that later on, people. God. Yeah, how many videos have we done on that? They still ask.
Too many.
I don't go watch my videos on agnosticism.
Oh, I always do that. I hate it. I stubbed my toe again. I mean, if God exists, then why does my toe hurt when I stub it? What kind of stupid creator would design the human body in a way that allows for pain in my toe in the first place? Clearly, God does not exist. I mean, what kind of idiot creator would put the toes on the outside of the body, huh?
I actually like that one. Go ahead, you can start this one.
That's a good one. I like that one too. It's just an extreme example of somebody finding a design flaw in literally everything and being like, well, how do you justify that somebody designed this? This design is awful.
Yeah, and well, also it's more than that. He's actually touching on the evidential problem of evil.
Yes.
And the atheist, I happen to think that's actually a very good argument for atheists. I don't know why more atheists don't use it, except for the fact that in order to use the evidential problem of evil, you need to go read stuff like Plantinga's defense of it. You need to read things like the free will defense. You need to read things like the theodicies of what's called soul building exercise. Was it John Mill? I think was he the one that did the soul building exercise? I'm really hard about names. But the soul building theodicy is basically saying we're down here to experience certain things so we can build our soul in the afterlife.
Oh yeah.
It's called the soul building theodicy. So there is theodicies against the evidence of problem of evil, but some of them work, some of them don't work. I don't like Plantinga's argument that he'll argue that we have free will because what's called a free will defense, but it doesn't explain naturalistic evils like this. But then he's tried to explain naturalistic evils, and he has to take it back to Adam and Eve. And as soon as he's going back to Adam and Eve, I just tune out on that, right? To me, that's not a valid theodicy. I think his argument against a logical problem of evil is okay, and I think that his argument against the evidential problem of evil as far as a free will defense works, okay, because, and I hate to say it, Plantinga, I think, is right on that, only because you only need one instance to defeat the argument, and I think he does make at least a plausible argument for it, but I don't think it defeats natural evil. I don't.
Right.
So the atheist argument that why are there natural evils? I think that's a very, very good argument, and most theists I know will admit that is one of the most difficult things they have to deal with to try to wrap their head around. Why is there such atrocities? And by the way, stubbing your toe is actually in the literature. This is actually used. As
there's actually evil. One of my favorites. This a little bit plays on like that Gen Xer humor.
Yeah.
Something's happening.
Yeah, you might want to check
It's usually
for an
based
intruder.
on the. We're all right. There's just there's a dog that lives upstairs. There's a something. The hell was I talking about?
Evidential problem
There's
evil.
right. Okay, so there's it goes into Gen Xer humor, and a lot of Gen Xer humor is very, very dark and very much I may as well kill myself. So things like I dropped my coffee. God, why have you betrayed me? Things like that.
Millennials, everything's a catastrophe, right?
Yeah, well, it's either everything's a catastrophe or like they've so given up on life that they just over exaggerate that's the joke, right? So like, well, the world's going to shit, everything's gonna be dead, nobody's doing anything about climate change. Guess everything's a joke about it. God, why have you betrayed me? I've stubbed my toe. No, there is no God.
Yeah. By the way, everybody say hi to Nadia Vet Chambers in the live chat.
Hello.
She needs to come back on more often. I hope she's doing well. She actually one of the reasons why I have a YouTube channel, or at least why I started in the Great Debate stuff, is going into her rooms ages ago. So glad to see her around.
I stubbed my toe on this table. Why wouldn't God move this table out of the way for me so I wouldn't stub my toe? Evil!
Evil God! Evil God!
Evil God!
But you know, again, it is one of those. Okay, I don't want to get too down.
We're picking on this guy, but we also think his video is funny.
Oh yeah. No, this is I really do.
I like it.
This is actually, we're not condemning him by any stretch of the imagination. We're actually praising the fact that we found this to be a funny video. But you know, most people talk about the atrocities of God, like starving children, unless you're G-Man who thinks there's no starving Christian children. But those we all consider to be moral atrocities.
What?
Yeah, G-Man doesn't think there's any starving Christian children. It's a long
different thing.
Long
different
story
thing.
From,
Keep going.
Okay, so when we're talking about natural evil, something as minuscule of stubbing your toe, people ask, well, why is it you're stubbing your toe? Why is that considered to be a natural evil when we're talking about there's bigger pictures like starving children and stuff like that? This actually gets into possible world semantics. It actually gets into why did God create this particular world? Why was this world actualized when the next closest possible world to us could have had one less thing that is minuscule, like stubbing your toe? So why didn't he create that particular actualized world out of all the possible worlds that exist? Because if the argument is going to be we want to get soul building, right? Do we really gain anything knowledge-wise by having one less stub toe in your reality in your life? Would that make any significant difference to your soul building theodicy? So it's very critical about why we have this myopic little nuanced thing about stubbing your toe, because that's the question. Why did God create this actualized world out of the infinite number of possible worlds he could have?
Yeah.
We just got deep, didn't we?
Yeah.
Deep.
Go to the next one.
This is
comedy.
You like it deep? I like it deep.
Bro,
we just lost
I've got
our
the
audience.
best idea. Okay, I've been thinking about this for a while. So, all right, check it out. So, I'm thinking of going to hospitals to comfort dying people. I mean, okay, hear me out. Hold on. So, how often do people come to their rooms letting them know that atheism is true and nothing happens when they die? Yeah. I mean, they may find it refreshing to hear, "Worry not, my friend. It will all be over soon. Your life literally means nothing in the grand scheme of things. So, stop being selfish. Picture yourself as worm food and get excited to become part of the ecosystem, which will also die one day."
I don't think I have. This is the only one that I don't think I've ever heard anybody say.
Yeah. This one's probably. I don't think a lot of atheists going around doing this, and there's reasons for it. I have, like I said, I a couple year ago, I had a cousin that had some cancer problems, and she lost one kidney. And she was on Facebook saying, praise Jesus that I only lost one kidney, kind of thing. And of course, I if I was a dick, I'd be like, well, why did he want you to lose one? I mean, why did he give you cancer in the first place, kind of thing?
What
right?
a bizarre thing to be thanking Jesus for.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you're thanking
Isn't
Jesus
he a carpenter? He's the one who made the table I stubbed my toe on.
I'm not going to be an ass about it, right? So I mean, she's not a philosophical person. I was just grateful that my cousin was okay, right? I mean, she was a very sweet cousin. And so, there's certain things that you have to have certain tact with. And I see some atheists have tact, and I see some of them don't, right? Because I asked a question on the Non Sequitur show a while back, if you remember, and it was with GE, who has already shown that he's unethical. But I'd asked, the question was, if you were with somebody in a hospice or something like that, and the person was dying, and they asked you to pray with them, would you? Now, of course I would. Wouldn't even think twice about it. Whether it helps, whether it's, God exists, doesn't exist, it doesn't matter. You're doing it because somebody who's dying has a request, and it makes them feel better. It gives them comfort. And if you think that is going to be superseded by the fact that, oh, you're helping to promote religion in society, if you're that much of an anti-theist, okay, that's your ethical framework. I think that's being a dick myself. But, hey, that's your business, right? Jesus said no, he wouldn't, right? Surprise, literally a surprise of no one. Yeah, like I said, we know his ethical standards. But I would. Now, I'm not going to judge somebody if they just say, I'm not comfortable doing that. But, to me, I couldn't imagine an atheist going around and doing this. So this was one of the only ones, too, that I thought was completely kind of fabricated.
It's bizarre. The only thing I can think of is, at least for the first half of that, yes, there are people who get comfort out of, like, you know what? Thank God this shit's over. I don't have to deal with this garbage anymore. Fuck life. And there are people who get comfort from that, and that's totally okay also. But it's the nihilism part, and that's the part that seems to be assumed on that. Like I can see the first half of that argument, and I can also see that maybe somebody could make that argument to say that, why do you go to hospitals and tell people that they're going to burn in hell forever? Because that's a thing that people do. So I could see, well, why don't I just
Fair
go
enough.
and comfort them and say that, you know what, your life is over, you don't have to worry anymore, and that could be comforting to some people. So, like, I could see that in that case, that argument being made, but it was the second nihilistic part that seems to me that it was tacked on as the assumption, because I've seen this assumption made that anybody who's an atheist is a nihilist, and that's not the case.
That's a good point, though. Okay, let's look at that kind of more objectively. If you have religious people going around, like doing last rites, or you're doing people going around saying, hey, you're going to die in the next couple of days, let me try to convert you, right?
Yeah.
You would agree that does happen. I'm sure
yeah, the pastor of my old church used to do it.
Okay, so to offset that, would atheists be morally justified to go around to offset that and try to convince them not to be? Well, I don't know what they would gain out of that.
The thing
There's
is that you shouldn't be
I don't think.
trying to. Well, there is if you get soul points for converting people in heaven.
No.
Thing.
The atheist. No, I get that, but the atheist.
Why the atheist?
Yeah, because I mean, if the person's going to die and they're converted, they're no harm to anybody. They're not going to interject their beliefs into society if you're somewhat an anti-theist. So why do you care if they convert on their deathbed?
Yeah, I think it's more of a hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you wanted to make the argument that if you're legitimately just being altruistic about it and you just want people to be comforted, then sure. You just want this person to feel better, and you don't want them to be scared of whatever religion has spent their life like bearing down on them. And you know what, and to have somebody be like, you know what, it's okay, you don't have to worry about this, could be quite.
That's a fair point.
Relieving.
I you know what, that could be a very salient point here, is that an atheist could say, look, you don't need to be worried. You're passing. There is no hell to be concerned about, and the person might actually end up having a better transition, and a less agonizing thing that they're going through, and be more comforted by that.
Yep. Than
somebody saying, hey, you better convert or you're going to hell.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing that applies to those who are still living and those who are still with us, because if you know that, like, if I die, my family knows I'm going to be burning in hell. They're aware of this, but if which is going to be hard and rough on them. But if there's somebody around being like, you know what, maybe she's not though, it might not be so bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are people who have argued, and
assuming anybody gives a shit if I'm alive.
Well, there's a good argument to be had, and it's an argument that's been bantered around for quite some time. Is if you're going to hell and your family's in heaven, then however can they have how can they have heaven if you don't exist there? How is it that they're going to be happy? How are they going to have this paradise if they're not with you? I've never heard anybody actually give a cogent response to that. Some people have said, "Well, you forget about your loved ones." Well, come on. That's ad hoc to me. That's an ad hoc explanation.
I just always assumed that because your ideals would be essentially able to match God's ideals at that point, you'll think that they do deserve to be there and you'll enjoy in it.
I prefer more the universalist that actually.
I'm not saying what I preferred. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the universalists will say that everybody's saved, and I think that from a religious point, that seems to make more sense to me. Just like I think annihilationism makes more sense over eternal damnation. Okay.
William Lane Craig is so dumb. He's so stupid. I mean, the guy has 2 PhDs, right? One of them's in philosophy. He's been published in more peer-reviewed philosophical journals than any other modern philosopher alive, and the poor guy doesn't even know what a fallacy is. It's such a shame that professional atheist philosophers don't call him out on his special pleading fallacy. Every argument he has, special pleading. And nobody can point that out? Why does it take a YouTube atheist to point that out? Tell me that, huh?
All right, he makes a good point on that one. I've seen atheists do this. First of all, I'm not a fan of William Lane Craig. I think he has a very poor debating style because he uses negative rhetoric to try to manipulate the audience. He wants to win the debate by manipulation. But by the way, is not exactly outside of how you actually do a debate. Debates are won by rhetoric. In most debates, when you're out in a public forum or you're in high school and you do a debate, your goal is to convince people. Now, you have to do that, ethically, but you still are using rhetoric to do so. You can't use fallacies. Now, he doesn't. These special pleading things that I hear all the time, I think atheists do themselves a disservice because they get special pleading wrong. But like he's right.
Oh, people get fallacies wrong? Yeah.
Well, I mean, like you said, though, if it was so easy, he's special pleading, then why aren't these, professional atheist philosophers calling him out on it? Because he's not special pleading in most cases. Special pleading is when you have, you say something about a particular group or set, and then you try to exclude something from that group or set without proper justification for doing so. That would be special pleading. And so people say, well, this is my favorite special pleading. You tell me if you can tell me why it's not special pleading. Well, they'll say, everything has a cause. Everything that's contingent has a cause. God is wait. I'm trying to think what they're saying.
Are you thinking of the Kalam?
Well, no, I don't want to do the Kalam. That's what I'm trying to phrase it differently. Okay, you know what? We'll do the Kalam. Whatever. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. Why is that not special pleading when it comes to the universe or to God? Because people will say, well, doesn't God have a cause? Well, no, that's not special pleading. And why? You know why?
Well, it becomes special pleading later down in the argument, but the argument itself on its own isn't special pleading. There are different problems with it, but it's logically sound.
But why is it everything? If everything has a cause except for God, right? People will say, well, that's special pleading because you're exempting something, but it's not. And this is why professional philosophers don't call them out on it. The reason why it's not special pleading is because there's only 3 real possibilities of something existing, okay? There's what's called a brute fact, which means it exists. There's no rhyme, no reason for it. It exists. It's a brute fact. We can't explain it. It doesn't satisfy principle of sufficient reason, so we're going to call that a brute fact. The other one is a bunch of contingent causal chains leading back to something that is contingent. Leading back to something contingent. So it's just contingency. So that would be called an infinite regress. Okay?
Yeah. It's like I said, there are problems with the argument. It's just not an issue of special pleading until it can become special pleading if that's the direction the conversation goes.
There's one more position, and that is contingent to metaphysical necessity. Now, the theist posits God as a metaphysical necessity. So the metaphysical necessity must exist.
But yeah, you define it into existence.
Well, no, I don't like that either. You're not defining it into existence. You're positing it as a metaphysical necessity. You're not defining anything. Right. You're positing it, and so you're saying all contingent things have a cause. Okay, but metaphysical necessities, and I hate to say by definition, but in this case it kind of is, by definition, do not need a cause because they must exist in all possible worlds. That is why it's not special pleading for a theist to say God doesn't have a cause because he's not contingent. He's a metaphysical necessity. Now, that you want to accept that or not, that's up to you. But that's why professional philosophers don't call him out on special pleading, I think. Now, we actually have somebody who's pretty good in philosophy here, Nadia. She might be able to expand upon that. But
is it really moral? Snowdog asked, is it moral to shoot your perfectly healthy pet to prevent them the pain of seeing Reds' face?
I would kill most people to prevent that.
Yeah, I would say. Well, you don't have to kill them. You can just take their eyes out. You could do that. You could do that humanely.
Well,
but
I
think,
still know you haven't seen Red's actual face yet because you're not stuttering and your eyes aren't like bleeding, and so I don't know what he showed you
I,
before, but it's not his actual real face.
it's CGI.
Yeah.
But I think the issue with Craig isn't the reason why people are online and on YouTube a lot of the time are flippant with Craig is because nobody cares. The same reason people are flippant with Hovind. It's the exact same thing. It's just people have been able to pick up biology easier and better than they have philosophy. They just haven't spent as much time with one or the other. But Craig is awful.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not a big fan of how he debates by any stretch of imagination.
So I just don't think that I think that's where most of the atheists that he's referring to in the video are coming from. They're saying this is ridiculous and this is flippant because Craig has made an adaptation of something that existed in, like, what was it, the 1700s?
Yeah.
I recommend Apologia's videos.
Apologia's breakdowns all this stuff. Yeah, he does a wonderful job on that.
Scott Clifton, as well as somebody else did one recently.
I almost got Scott Clifton to join us for it's quiz time, so hopefully maybe we can convince him to do that.
Tease me.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of bold and beautiful questions on there, so maybe
perfect.
I'm coaxing him into it. We'll get him. But Lisa Lang says, Steve, can the universe itself, like the singularity came from, be a metaphysical necessity? Yes, it can be. I take it as a brute fact. This goes in what's called foundationalism versus coherentism versus infinite regress. It's called the Munchausen trilemma. Some people call it a Agrippa trilemma, but I call it the Munchausen trilemma. But there's only a few things it can be. The universe can either be a brute fact, contingent upon something for infinite regress, or a metaphysical necessity. It has to be one of those three. I don't know what else it could be. That's why they call it Munchausen trilemma. I happen to take brute fact. And that's because my whole kind of epistemological framework is kind of centered around foundationalism, classical foundationalism. But there's problems with foundationalism, just like there's problems with coherentism. So there's no one size fits all. This is the thing about philosophy. They all have their issues. What do you want to go with, and what do you want to build your framework from? Like stock account, he builds it from coherentism. And he does a really good job with that. He's not wrong. I'm not wrong. He's not right. I'm not right. It's just, what do you want to pick? Pick one and go with it.
There's something about a part of this is that a lot of, and maybe this is just my experience, but a lot of Christians, apologetics, or Christians who are studying apologetics will present William Craig's arguments as if they are brand new, as if they'd never heard them before, as if the atheist will have never heard this thing. I think that's where you're getting a lot of the flippant responses of being like, nobody cares, just go watch this video.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, no, it's again, I hate to use the word debunk, but it's been explained.
Atheists are flippant with Craig.
Yeah.
Flippant with Craig. They're flippant with. I'm not speaking for everybody, but generally speaking, particularly if you're going to Twitter or YouTube comments, flippant with Craig, flippant with C.S. Lewis, flippant with what's the other guy's name? Frig.
Plantinga?
There's no, that's too advanced, Steve. I'll pull up the list. Play the next one.
Well, real quick, Lizzie wants to know if whatever the first uncaused would be God. Yeah, that's what they would consider the first, would be the uncaused cause or the prime mover, because one of the arguments for motion, which would have been going back to Thomas Aquinas, the argument for motion is basically, in a nutshell, what started the motion, everything, right? I mean, motion needs to be put in motion by something. So the original prime mover, right? That's why they call it the first mover. Set all these things in motion. That's kind of the argument for motion. That would be the uncaused cause, because he basically willed it to cause for whatever reason. We willed it. Don't know the mechanism, but by sheer whatever, he caused the first motion to be there. So
Lee Strobel.
Lee
was the
Strobel.
Other one. Yeah.
I never read any of his books.
Yeah. Lee Strobel sucks. Oh, there you go.
Hey man, I know you're a YouTuber, and maybe you can give me some pointers, because I've been thinking of starting a YouTube channel myself. I want to do something that's really creative and something that no one else is doing. So what I think I'll do is, over and over, I'll say how there's no evidence for God, And then I'll throw in some really clever punchlines like Sky Daddy and Magical Man in the Sky, Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus is like believing in God, religious people are stupid, the Bible is, full of Bronze Age myths written by goat herders, yada yada. And then I'm going to search on Google. Here's where it gets really good. I'm going to search on Google for some edgy scriptures and tell people that God enforced slavery and hates gays. No one's ever done that before.
He's clearly just quoting Dillahunty and Aaron.
But you know what? He's got a point on this one. He's got a point. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of research and deep thinking to go and start a channel and paraphrase, or even parrot most of the time, everything that's already been done numerous times. Now, I'm not saying we haven't done it. I've used other people's arguments. I've said the same things way back when, but I've evolved a lot since then. But I think a lot of atheists do that. All they do is they go on and they just say the same shit I've heard a million times. It's not that interesting. Now, I come up with novel arguments, I like to think. I have an actual webpage, www.greatdebateCommunity.com, where I try to have novel arguments. And I like to see more of that. I would like to see more atheists try to argue something new and innovative, rather than the same old crap I've heard for 6 years that I've been on YouTube. Come up with something new.
Things get repetitive. Things get the samey. I think that's one of the reasons why the community started taking more of a downturn in the past handful of years, is because it's all a lot of the same stuff over and over again. I'm concerned that the same thing is going to happen, or is currently at the beginning of happening with flat Earth stuff. And it's difficult, and it's difficult because when one side is making the same arguments over and over again, it's easy for one to get lazy and just keep rebutting the same thing over and over again. Then but it's also difficult to come up with arguments against something that isn't presenting anything new.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But the theist side is, like Epic Christ points out, IP, he tries to make new arguments. I've seen him try to make new arguments.
Yeah,
but I don't think he may be right on some of them. I also seen Capturing Christianity. He's trying to make,
I'm pretty sure Mike Winger is trying to do new things. I'm really sad that he blocked me on Twitter ages ago, and I don't know why.
He's never blocked me.
I don't know why he blocked me. I don't think I said anything awful.
I block trolls right off the bat.
I
even posted on it today. If I think they're a troll, I'm just going to block them. I'm not going to.
Man, I'm just sad.
Waste my time.
I've used his videos before when talking to other Christians to be like, no, this thing you're thinking it isn't this thing. Here's a Christian explaining it to you. And now I'm sad.
But you notice this?
I like him.
He's different. Mike?
He is. That's why I like him.
Well, I'd rather have like a Mike Winger than a Matt Powell, clearly, right? So.
Oh God, yeah. At least he's trying. He's clearly a good person trying to do good things.
I want theists to have new arguments that I'm going, I really want to think about that, right? And I want atheists to do the same. But it's so funny. The more novel arguments that I have, which are, again, they're all derivative in some ways. Let's be realistic here. But I get more crap from the atheist than I do the theist on my arguments. Oh, Steve doesn't know what he's talking about. Steve's completely wrong with that. Even though I'll cite numerous experts in the field, and not one of them says, oh, that's a crap argument. Not one has ever told me that. Not one. Even Dr. Malik, who one of my arguments came from his paper, he was actually flattered that I did an analysis of it. So he didn't go, yeah, Steve, you're just boneheaded. What the hell are you doing? So, I'm flattered by that, and yet I have the atheist going, hey, Steve, your argument's crap. Okay, explain to me why. Oh, because... it can't be true because some person on some atheist channel said it's crap. Really? Come on. That's why I find this. That's why I think atheists don't want to even try to put it out there to be novel in their argumentation, because they're afraid of looking bad. Look, so what? You may have a bad argument. When I was in Nadia Events Chambers, streams years ago, we're going way back, right? People tested out new arguments, right? And if you had a bad argument, nobody held it against you as long as you said, yeah, you know what? Okay, I'm wrong on that. Let's fix it, blah, blah, blah. It was the ones that would double down, triple down, quadruple down, the ones that would be just denialist.
Yeah, you don't have to commit to the argument. If it's not good, it's not good.
Give it up, right? And we've seen it happen. Darwin's Deity, who used to go in that room all the time, he was a pro at that, right? He would have bad argument and not ever correct it. Ever. you ever see him ever correct anything. And so he has
Yeah.
years of piled on bad arguments.
Well, and people are going to be there's a misunderstanding. The point isn't to be right all the time. The point is to be noble, to be ethical, is to change. If you're wrong, admit you're wrong and change your argument, and just be like, you know what, this wasn't a good argument. Let me adjust it. Let me change it. Let me tweak it. Let me do better.
Right.
And people appreciate that, and people will understand that. And people want to see that. They would rather see you grow and change as a person than just watch the same garbage over and over and over again.
Look, if you haven't changed your position once in a year, you're probably you're inflexible. I think that people should modify. Like I mean, I've changed my positions a little bit, at least modified them. I mean, not like done 180s, but I've gotten more nuance. Like people maybe remember years ago, I would say I was apathetic, apatheistic, agnostic, theological cognitivist. And I modified since then because I'm still apathetic to a degree, but I don't need to label myself that way because I think it confuses people. So I just kind of took that out, right? I am apathetic in the fact that I don't care whether God exists or does not exist as much as the argument, because I don't think any of these arguments are going to convince anybody, or at least demonstrate that God exists or doesn't. So it's an ontological question that we're never going to know the answer to, and we have to take it belief, right? We can argue it, we can discuss it, but we have no way to verify it either way. So I'm kind of apathetic when it comes to the discussions. But I'm not a theological cognitivist anymore because at the time, I didn't have a fully understanding of what that entailed. It seemed to make sense on its face, but after I researched it more, I realized it wasn't making sense to me, and I've changed my position since then. So that's why people say, well, Steve used to say he was this. Well, yeah, but I modified since then. That's how you grow. But I know much more about these topics than I did back then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't formally trained in philosophy, so 4 or 5 years ago, I was still making my way through these things. So.
Yeah, and everybody does, and you can't know everything. Like, and you also need to rely on other people. But if other people are going to make the same arguments over and over again, how are you really going to learn or be able to explore? Because not everybody has the time or the energy to deal with this.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, number 10.
Ugh, you don't get it. If God is real, why doesn't he stop atheists like me from rejecting facts that we don't like? Or how about us having some of the worst arguments in human history? Better yet, how about how we consider it a skill to be hyper skeptical of anything and everything that could change our minds? I mean, anyone could play hyper skeptic. Nothing special there. Why doesn't God just stop us from avoiding the burden of proof like it's the Black Plague? Huh? Okay, and most of all, why does God allow so many of us to suffer from ARCS? Yeah, that's what I thought. Checkmate, Christians. Heh heh heh.
You want to
I
take
like
this
that.
one?
I like that. No, you go first this time.
Okay, so, I mean, again, there's a point to be made here. When I see a lot of atheists, obviously, they really do avoid the burden of proof, right? I mean, for some reason, it's like kryptonite to them, and I don't understand why. And so one of my novel arguments, is basically explaining to people why you shouldn't avoid the burden of proof, why all people have a burden of proof. If you have a position, whether it's a lack of belief or you believe, it doesn't matter. You have some kind of burden of proof attached to it. This is an epistemic burden of proof, not an evidential saying, well, in this case, they're kind of the same thing in some ways, but in law, they kind of had a distinction. But it only means that you need to justify your belief. And if you tell somebody, I believe in God, you might be doing just a self-assessment. You might just be an autobiographical and saying, I'm just giving you my view on it. I'm not going to engage with you. I'm not going to sit here and have a dialogue with you. At that point, you have no onus to explain to them why you believe in God, or don't believe in God, or believe God doesn't exist. And so I think that he has a point there that a lot of atheists will do that. And so why, I don't know where I was going with that.
What's the point in joining the discussion if you're not going to discuss?
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to put it. What's the point of having dialogue with theists if you're not really going to bring your own arguments to the table? Right?
And the thing is that a lot of the time, for most of these arguments, if the atheist is so uppity, if they're so like, oh, my arguments are so much better than yours, then why don't you make the arguments?
Yeah.
Why would you? It doesn't make a sense to me. I don't understand.
And if you were going to try to convince a theist, right? Would it be? Don't you think it'd be more productive? By the way, I'm checking my tweet. I don't mean ignoring you guys. I want to see if this guy actually finds our tweet on this.
I would be so happy. That'd be such a good and interesting conversation. I
Wouldn't
think,
it? Right. And
Go everybody tweet at him.
well, he hasn't tweeted anything on it.
No, I'm telling chat, man.
Okay,
I want chat to be active. It's a game. See how many you can get.
Yeah. By the way, somebody says please define ARCS. I don't think what is ARCS?
ARCs? I don't know. I'm awful with acronyms and initials.
I don't know.
I'm terrible. So if someone in the chat figures out what that is.
Well, let's play it again. Maybe I can get the context because
Anyone could play hyper skeptic,
which is true. By the way, atheists do that all the time. Well, I just don't believe. I don't believe. And by the way, he's talking about atheist experience, right? Because that's all those guys do is I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but how educated do you have to be to go? I don't believe the theist. You made a claim, but I don't believe you. I'm just rejecting your claim. That makes you look so weak. It's ridiculous.
Special there.
It does, and it gets repetitive.
Very repetitive.
God just stop us from avoiding the burden of proof like it's the Black Plague? Huh? Okay, and most of all, why does God allow so many of us to suffer from ARCS?
I don't know. Somebody's going to look that up for us.
ARC syndrome refers to association between anthrogyprosis, renal tubular dysfunction,
and cholestasis. Okay.
I don't get the joke. I'm too stupid.
Well, I guess it's something that maybe a lot of people don't have, and it's just why does God give that to them? I don't know. I never heard the term, and I didn't look it up when I watched this video. So I'm not afraid to go. I don't know. And sometimes I actually may know, and somebody needs to draw my memory, and I'll be go, oh shit, I did actually know that. That bugs me too, and I'm like, I did know that, but I've never heard of it. So
yeah. I also I kind of agree with this for the most part. If you're gonna have an argument, if you're gonna engage in the discussion, then engage in the discussion. Don't be a puss. Make an argument, and if your argument's bad, that's okay. Just say, "Oh wow, yeah, no, you made a good point," and then move on. I did it earlier here.
And that's another thing. That's by the way, good point. People don't do that enough. They don't give enough credit when somebody, especially adversarial, especially somebody who's an interlocutor, makes a good point because for some reason it makes them think that you making your position weaker. But no, I think that is a principle of charity, and I think that is intellectually honest. I think that's a virtue epistemological approach to being virtuous. Is if somebody makes a good point, whether they're adversarial or not, you can at least acknowledge it. Go, that's a good point, but let me explain it to you this way, or let me.
Yeah, exactly. There's been plenty of there's been plenty of times where I've gone to somebody and said, you know what, that you make a good point. That's a good argument. However, here's why it doesn't work. This is the exact conversation that I had. Okay, so when Sarah and Adam were having their second discussion on this channel, I came swinging in, and I came to bat, and I came to bat on purpose. Specifically, I wanted to shake up the conversation because we had been going in circles for hours at this point, 2 streams worth of time. So I immediately came in, swung a bat, and then went, okay. When Adam was like, I'm gonna leave, I was like, okay, that's fine. However, and I just reeled him back in and made sure that we actually understood what he was saying. It's important to understand what the other side, what the other argument is. If you don't understand what the argument is and you just go, well, it's your burden of proof, nobody gets anywhere. Maybe they did make a good point and you just either can't acknowledge it or don't understand it and therefore can't acknowledge it. If you don't understand, that's okay. It's okay if a theist knows more than you about something, and it's okay. This isn't a problem.
I couldn't agree more on that. And
learn something.
And what's worse is when somebody gets insulting when you know they're not understanding you. Like I had it on the debate last night. Tom didn't understand what I was talking about. He didn't give a crap. And so people throw out these things like personal insults, like you do stupid understand. You're smooth brained. You don't you don't understand certain concepts. Now I do that as well. I don't think I'm a hypocrite on it because I only tell people that they don't understand the concept when I actually believe they don't understand the concept. People have known me quite some time. I'm really not known for somebody as being not able to understand basic concepts. Usually I am the one explaining to people concepts. So I don't think a lot of people go around going, hey, like a Steve guy, he doesn't grasp the most simplest stuff. I don't really see that happening a lot. So in that case, they're using that to try to diminish my arguments. That I find to be dishonest. But when I tell people that I don't think they can understand concepts, I am being very legit. And I think that they don't. Because if somebody's like, 3 times in a row, if you tell me a fallacy and you get it wrong, I'm probably going to go on a ledge and say I don't think you understand concepts-wise of what informal fallacies are.
Yeah, and there's one thing if you're gonna there's a time and place to come in winging with a bat. There's a time and place. I specifically did that on purpose because I was called to do that, and also because, God, that conversation was going in circles. So
Sometimes
you
it's fun
don't.
to throw in a grenade, sure.
So yeah, sometimes it's fun to throw a wrench into the plans and be like, all right, let's shake up this discussion and then refocus on where we're disagreeing, and it can let things get heated and then bring it back, and let things get heated and bring it back. It makes things more entertaining. But there's also there are times to not go in with a bat, and sometimes when you're having a discussion, it's totally acceptable. A compliment costs you nothing. Even in an argument, it doesn't cost you anything. So if somebody makes a good argument, you don't have to ream on them for either something else or being like, well, that just doesn't convince me, therefore blah, 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 blah. No. Just be like, hey, you know what? You make a good point. Well, what about this thing?
Yeah, and I talk to a lot of theists that I have utmost respect for, and even philosophers. Like, let's say, like MJ. MJ is a philosopher. He started his own channel recently. And, he makes some really amazing points, right? But we'll discuss them. And
Yeah.
I've actually learned, because he wrote a full thesis on modalities and counterfactuals and this other stuff. He sent me the outline. I didn't even know what the outline was. I didn't understand it. That's how complicated it was. And so when he's talking to me about something, we've had conversations. By the way, people might remember him as, I think his name was Slash way back when, in the naughty days. He's been around for a long time. But I'll be like, yeah, that makes me think that now I've become better at understanding and argumentation because they made me think by making a good point. Now, I could say, well, I don't agree with you on this, and let's kind of discuss it out. That's how you have the best discussions.
Yeah. Yeah, the best way, I find the best way to approach most discussions, even if you do know the topic very well, is to just ask. Try not to be a condescending prick about it, unless, they deserve it. But I mean, I didn't say that. I don't know what you're talking about. Approach with questions, and then you can kind of start finding where there's holes and where there's issues, and be like, okay, well, I see what you're saying, and that's a good point, but I'm confused about this part. And then, now, as soon as you've done that, now you've got a conversation that's rolling, and now you've got something where they're making you think, but also you put them in the position where they have to.
Yeah, and that's how you know you have an honest interlocutor, because you'll find the ones that are not honest interlocutors, when they're dishonest agents. You'll recognize them like that. Like Darwin's deity, you could tell he's a dishonest agent because he will not answer certain questions. He won't make any good points, and when he'll make a bad point, and somebody go, well, wait a minute, let's talk about that. He'll never acknowledge it, and he won't ever say to anybody, oh, that's you made a good point. He won't ever do that. He'll be like, oh, no, you're just trolling me, and you're my troll list because you pointed out that he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. The reason I keep bringing up him is because I just literally watched a video somebody reminded me of, and I actually put on my Twitter about. I had said to him,
a throwback.
There's a throwback, and I like throwbacks because you forget about this stuff. But I had said to him in a hangout, I explained to people, look, this guy here, I don't talk to any longer, only because he will not have a honest conversation. If he wants to come to my channel, he's always welcome. Right? He's always been welcome to come on this channel. He won't ever do it. He has to have mod control. He has to have a safe space. I don't deal with that. But I said he will not answer these 18 questions put forth by the Pal Talkers like Jack Angstrike and Godless Girl and a few other people, Rational Nihilist. He won't answer them. He won't, because if he answers them, it'll demonstrate that he's been extremely inconsistent this entire time, because he is extremely inconsistent. So he knows he cannot answer them. He knows he can't, because the arguments are that bad. That is a dishonest agent. And so Darwin's Greatest Hit made a video about this with me saying this, and then he juxtaposed all the different times people were asking him these questions where he wouldn't answer them. And then at the very end, Gus Bellinger just wrecked him. It is one of the most brutal, visceral, just takedowns I have ever seen in my life. Because I don't know if you guys remember Gus, but he was a wordsmith. He could cut you down to size in a heartbeat just by his vast vocabulary. And it is, even if you're right, he can make you sound like you're wrong. And he just destroyed Darth Dawkins, or Darwin's Deity, or Evolution False, whatever you want to call him. People may not
the
remember
chat
that,
is
but-
saying to make sure that you stream when it reaches 69 days.
Oh, I guess we need a special episode for that, don't we?
I think, yeah, and I think one of the reasons why we even covered this video, it was, one, because it's funny, 2, there's a lot to talk about in it, 3, we want people to do better too. We want there to be better arguments and better discussion out there.
Yep. And by the
Help
way,
me to help you.
The 69 episode, it'll probably be only like talking about one person getting off, but not the other person, because I didn't get any.
Womp
Get it?
womp.
Womp, womp. I didn't
Womp
get any.
womp. So we're gonna have to have a rum and coke 69 edition.
Well, but tomorrow's not like a weekend.
Yeah,
You want to have a special Rum and Coke night tomorrow?
we could.
We could. What is tomorrow? Tuesday?
Yes.
I don't think I have anything planned. I know I got people wants to come on this week, but I think it's later on in the week. I don't think I told somebody, I think Thursday. I'll have to check. But yeah, if not, what do you guys think?
We'll figure something out.
You guys want to do 69 on Tuesday? Rum and Coke?
We can do 69. We can do rum and coke, or we can do, I don't know. We can do fucking anything.
Well, let's see.
We can do anything. Go on Twitter and tweet at us what you think we should do for
There you
69.
There you go. So the Twitter is in the video description. Tweet to me and tag Chesh, or tweet to her and tag me. It doesn't really matter either way. But we're both going to retweet. But tag one of us.
Hell yeah.
Well, tag both of us, but tag to us, and tell us what you think. If you want to do a 69 episode for Rum and Coke Night, I'm down for that, because I will tell you this off the record. I probably shouldn't tell you this because it was a little secretive thing, but I'm going to tell you anyways. She's prepared for a Rum and Coke Night.
Hey, what? I've been thrown under the bus.
Yeah.
Help!
Don't
Help!
trust me with secrets,
Help!
people. Don't trust me with secrets.
God damn it!
So yeah, I'm
I've
down
been
for
ruined.
that. If that's what they want, we can do that tomorrow. But let me know. So it's up to you guys. So I don't think we're gonna play the end of this because well, I know. Do you want to? I've got 1 minute. Might as well play it out, I guess.
Yeah, do it up.
Yeah,
Wait for 96
that's what
instead.
I thought. Checkmate, Christians. So that was it. I hope you guys can understand my pain now. And I've got plenty more too, because he really scarred me. So if you guys want to see more, then please just leave it down below. And hold on, I need a moment.
Melodramatic.
Okay, I'm back. And if you guys aren't really good at understanding jokes and you thought that this was all serious, well, now I'm telling you, it was just a joke. But most importantly, the next time that your roommate says, "Why does it take a YouTube atheist to point that out? Tell me that, huh?" What are you gonna say?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
What do you meme? I don't. You know what? I'm insulted. I don't think that guy really ever had an atheist roommate.
Yeah, I don't trust him. He's a theist. Got to distrust him. I just thought it was a funny video. I think he did a good job on it. He brought forth a lot of the things that I do hear from atheists. And as Chess pointed out, I have never been out there trying to dismantle the atheist community. I've tried to build it up by having them better argumentation. A lot of people have started listening to me over the years, and a lot of people have gotten better at discussions. And it's not just me, but there's other people, helping out as well on that front. So
I just listen.
Right.
Listen. I just get pissy. Okay, this bothers me. Lots of people want the atheist community and the agnostic communities and the communities, all of them who are interlocking together, to be better at what they do. Please be better, be more interesting, have more conversations. We want to see that. Stop just shutting down conversations, because that sucks. Secondly, can the ACA go off with trying to make everybody as if they're the only atheist community? Like, they got a little bit big for your britches in Texas there, boys. You're not the only community, you're not the only people that exist, and we don't care whether or not you want to use your terms or other people's terms. Stop pretending you get to decide the terms for all atheists. You don't speak for all of us. Some of us don't even live in your country.
Yeah,
Stop! You're ruining it for everyone.
And I'll emphasize on that. you know, I have the Great Debate community still on Facebook. We have about 650 people, which is not very large. It's a fraction of what it was on G+. But we still have the core group. We still have a lot of people that watch this channel. We still have a lot of people on Facebook. You know, they're not going to tell that group how to use terms, right? They don't speak for those atheists because most of those atheists have moved on well past the ACA or AR or American Atheist, and they've recognized that they are politically motivated, they are agenda driven, they are ideological, and that what I've been telling people for years.
And those things are and those things are fine, but stay in your lane, guys. Stay in your lane. Like, I get what you're trying to do. I get that you have an agenda, and that's fine. I don't even necessarily disagree with your agenda. Maybe I don't even disagree with your tactics sometimes. But you don't speak for everybody. You speak for your group in your country in that area for the people who have agreed to be in your group. You are not all atheists. These are not all atheists' arguments. Your atheist experience is an amazing show, but fuck off!
Yeah, no,
Stay in your lane.
We're on the same page. By the way, I got to point this out because only one person at the very end of this noticed this. And this was kind of by design. I'd thought about this. So thank you, Gob. Gob said, I thought this was about Steve's crazy ex-roommate. That was by design, my friend. Nobody caught that. I was thinking to myself, somebody's going to think this is about my particular roommate by the headline, but you're the only one that caught that. Congratulations. Yay.
You get the prize of nothing.
You win the internet today.
Yay.
So we're going to wrap it up. Like I said, look forward to people tweeting to us. Also, I had a lot of things with Patreon going on. Some of my patrons, they were only going to do a certain amount for like a month or two, and they've all let me know about this. So my Patreon has like fluctuated quite a bit. So if people want to add new Patreons, the Patreon is in the link below. I appreciate it immensely because I knew that the Patreon, I knew it was going to go down a little bit because people.
Patreons are paying for my dog's food this month.
Whoa, nice.
Hey, you want to feed Puck?
Promote your channel too, real quick, and then we'll read this super chat.
Oh, I do art. Come find me doing art. I'm a little bit on hold right now. I'm waiting for a replacement cord, which Jim Majors was wonderful enough to send me. So that should be arriving should be here in a couple of days. It's supposed to be here on the 21st. So hopefully that will arrive on time, and we will get to live streaming the art as well as videos will be going back up soon. If you haven't seen them, it's actually really funny. If you go back in my channel, there's like from 3 years ago or 2 years ago when I started, so you can watch really bad art and then really good art.
Yeah, she does commissions, so.
I do.
Yeah. Princess April Von Rand says for 5 Canadian, I like Stephen Chesh, but what is this show about? Well, this isn't really. Well, I mean, it's a show, I guess. And what we do on this particular Caffeine Corner is we just review videos and talk. It's just like, me and her hanging out, having coffee, and people are listening and we're talking to them. That's basically it. It's nothing that complicated.
It's kind of like a morning show podcast. Where we cover all kinds of topics.
We could make it a little more formal if we wanted to, but I like the informality of it.
I like being able to pull in guests whenever.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we do other things, too, on this channel, Princess. I mean, we run a Coke nights. We have guests come in. We have philosophers come in. We have scientists come in. We have dialogues with younger creationists and flat earthers. It's a potpourri of stuff, so it's not one set thing. And I like that fact because I have a lot of flexibility on what I want to put on the channel. It's kind of nice. So,
I'm just here.
She's just eye candy, people. Don't let her think her opinion matters much. She's going to get a big head. But...
I cry.
I forgot. It was one thing I was going to say, and I totally forgot it because she was sad, and I was like, "Oh, don't be sad. I don't want her to cry. That makes me upset." All right, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. This was fun. I think, Thursday. That's what I'm going to say. I think on Thursday, we are going to have an episode on benevolent sexism and. Should people open the door for women? Should men open the door for women? Is that chivalry? Is that virtuous? Is it polite society? What is it? And I was going to have it with the feminist next door. I was going to ask her to join Amaris. For some reason, she blocked me. And I don't know why. I've never had words with her. I've always been polite. She's been on Non Sequitur. I just didn't agree with on this particular thing. And I was going to invite Brittany Simon on, which is difficult because of time zone problems. But... yes, the feminist next door blocked me on it. I'm like, well, I can't really bring her on as a counterpoint now, unfortunate. But we're still going to have the conversation anyways because I think it's an important conversation to be had because I don't understand the radical feminist mentality on that. And maybe I'll get Undoomed to join us. I've been talking to him. He said he might show up for a rum and coke or something, which would be really cool. But he might be interested in that. I'm gonna tag him. But anyways, I know what it was, guys. Tag this guy as well on your tweet. The what do you?
Oh yeah.
What do you meme, guy?
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This guy's great.
Yeah. Tell him we want to have a conversation with him. So bring him. Help bring him in too. Okay. Josh, anything else?
No, that's everything.
All right, guys.
Come say hi to us on Twitter if you have suggestions for stuff you want us to actually discuss, because we can take for this show. We can take suggestions for. So if you have suggestions about what you want to talk to, just tag us on Twitter.
Yeah, and by the way, Twitter is my main means of communication. Facebook sucks. Good night, guys. Or afternoon.
Bye.